Salut tout le monde! Today we're learning French with the French President Emmanuel Macron. This is a great opportunity to become familiar with the more formal speaking register so that you can be comfortable with any level of French. In this clip, Macron is speaking to the French people in the aftermath of the fire that nearly destroyed the cathedral of Notre-Dame de Paris in 2019. Vous êtes prêts? C'est parti!
Je veux avant toute chose avoir une pensée et des remerciements pour les sapeurs-pompiers de Paris. Près de 500 d'entre eux, depuis plusieurs heures, se sont battus contre les flammes et se battent encore. Je veux aussi avoir une pensée pour toutes les Parisiennes et les Parisiens. Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est leur cathédrale et plus encore. Et je veux aussi avoir une pensée pour l'ensemble de nos compatriotes. Parce que Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est notre histoire, notre littérature, notre imaginaire, le lieu où nous avons vécu tous nos grands moments, nos épidémies, nos guerres, nos libérations. Alors je vous le dis très solennellement ce soir, cette cathédrale, nous la rebâtirons, tous ensemble. Et c'est sans doute une part du destin français. Et le projet que nous aurons pour les années à venir. Mais je m'y engage. Dès demain, une souscription nationale sera lancée, et bien au-delà de nos frontières. Nous ferons appel aux plus grands talents, et ils sont nombreux, qui viendront y contribuer. Et nous rebâtirons Notre-Dame.
Now that you've watched the whole video, let's break down the key words and expressions.
Je veux avant toute chose avoir une pensée et des remerciements pour les sapeurs-pompiers de Paris.
Une pensée means a thought. You can see that it comes from the verb penser, meaning to think. So for example, you could say, mes pensées étaient ailleurs. My thoughts were elsewhere. In this case, Macron is saying avoir une pensée. Literally, that means to have a thought. But in this context, we would translate it as to spare a thought for someone. Macron also wants to give remerciement, which means thanks. For example, tous mes remerciements pour ce que vous avez fait. All my thanks for what you did. You can grasp the meaning of this word pretty easily once you see that the word merci is actually inside it. Finally, the people receiving these thoughts and thanks are the sapeurs-pompiers, the firefighters. Firefighters are often just called pompiers, literally pumpers, because they used to have to pump the water to put out fires. But the official name is sapeur-pompier. A sapeur is actually a type of soldier because the French fire department was originally part of the military.
Près de 500 d'entre eux, depuis plusieurs heures, se sont battus contre les flammes et se battent encore.
D'entre eux means of them or among them. In this case, it's 500 of the firefighters. For example, chacun d'entre eux devra faire son choix. Each of them will have to make their choice. Depuis plusieurs heures is a little hard to translate because there's no perfect equivalent for depuis in English. However, if we were watching this video on FluentU, we could just click on depuis in the interactive subtitles to see exactly what it means. FluentU tells us that it means for, and that it's usually used with the present tense to say how long something has been happening. For example, depuis combien de temps parles-tu français? For how long have you been speaking French? We can also watch video examples to see how depuis is used in similar contexts.
Les Français sont passionnés depuis très longtemps par les chiens.
So, depuis plusieurs heures, for several hours, the firefighters se sont battus, have fought. This is the passé composé conjugation of the reflexive verb se battre, meaning to fight. For example, il s'est battu contre un ours. He fought against a bear. In this case, what the firefighters are fighting against is, well, fire. Ils se sont battus contre les flammes et se battent encore. They have fought against the flames and are still fighting.
Je veux aussi avoir une pensée pour toutes les Parisiennes et les Parisiens. Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est leur cathédrale et plus encore.
What's interesting in this sentence is that Macron doesn't just say les Parisiens, he says les Parisiennes et les Parisiens, Parisian women and men. In French, the masculine plural is usually understood to include both men and women. So it's interesting that instead of just saying les Parisiens, he chooses to explicitly include both genders. It may partly be because he wants to make the speech feel more intimate. By referring to the individual women and men of Paris, he creates a more personal connection, instead of just speaking to the population as a whole. As a politician, Macron is also no doubt trying to make a statement about gender equality, by deliberately speaking to the women, not just the men, of Paris in this historic moment.
Et je veux aussi avoir une pensée pour l'ensemble de nos compatriotes.
It's interesting to note that this is the third time Macron has begun a sentence with Je veux avoir une pensée pour. This repetition creates a sense of structure in his speech. It's also typical of the way French politicians tend to speak in a more formal, sometimes even poetic way in their speeches, especially compared to American politicians who usually try very hard to be personable and down to earth. This time, Macron is sparing a thought for l'ensemble de nos compatriotes. Now, as an adverb, ensemble means together, but that's clearly not the case here. If we click on the word ensemble in the subtitles on FluentU, it shows us the correct definition in this context. We can see that in this case, l'ensemble is a noun, meaning the totality of something, or the whole of something. Let's use the video examples feature to see how this word is actually used in different settings.
L'étude de facteurs joue sur l'ensemble des organisations.
Nez. Le nez, c'est l'ensemble des arômes et parfums perçus en humant le vin.
Parce que Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est notre histoire, notre littérature, notre imaginaire.
Notre-Dame is really more than just a cathedral for the French people. It's been standing at the heart of Paris since the Middle Ages and has inspired countless works of art and literature. Notably, Victor Hugo's Notre-Dame de Paris, known in English as The Hunchback of Notre-Dame, which also inspired the Disney movie.
Le lieu où nous avons vécu tous nos grands moments, nos épidémies, nos guerres, nos libérations.
Le lieu means the place. The word lieu usually refers to a place where something happens. In this case, it's the place where the French experienced their great moments. You'll also hear un lieu de travail, a place where people work, or a workplace. Ont vécu actually means experienced in this context. The verb vivre generally means to live, but by extension, it can also mean to live through something, or to experience something. For example, il vit son premier chagrin d'amour. He's experiencing his first disappointment in love. So Notre-Dame is where the French experienced their great moments, including nos épidémies, our epidemics, nos guerres, our wars, and nos libérations, our liberations.
Alors je vous le dis très solennellement ce soir, cette cathédrale nous la rebâtirons, tous ensemble.
The adverb solennellement is the same as the English adverb solemnly. So Macron solemnly promises to rebuild Notre-Dame. But instead of using the typical word for rebuild, reconstruire, he says nous la rebâtirons. Bâtir and construire have pretty much the same meaning, but bâtir is a more poetic choice, and it's a word that's usually only used in more formal contexts. For example, mon frère a construit sa maison. My brother built his house. Napoléon a bâti son empire. Napoleon built his empire.
Et c'est sans doute une part du destin français.
The meaning of sans doute is pretty clear. It literally translates to without doubt. So in English we would say no doubt or undoubtedly. But in French, it's used much more often and in a much broader way than we would use no doubt in English. So if you just read the dictionary definition, you might be confused by how people use it in conversation. What's great about FluentU is that it gives you not just the definition, but also video examples, so that you can see how a phrase is used across contexts. And by the way, Macron's whole speech is on FluentU, so you can watch it there to learn even more than what we are covering today, and take a quiz to test and practice what you learn. FluentU also has hundreds of other French videos for you to choose from, including movie clips, TED Talks, music videos, and more. In addition, FluentU provides speaking questions, so it ensures you also master your French pronunciation. If you want to give FluentU a try for yourself, just click on the link in the description below this video for a free 2-week trial. So our whole sentence was, et c'est sans doute une part du destin français. Destin means destiny, but notice that Macron says du destin, which is the abbreviation for de le. That's because general concepts like destiny have an article in French. In French, you say le destin, where in English you would just say destiny without an article. It's the same for other concepts too. So love is l'amour, and religion is la religion, etc.
Et le projet que nous aurons pour les années à venir.
Avenir means to come. You'll often hear it used just like this in the phrase les années à venir, the years to come. But it's also used in other ways. For example, je me prépare pour ce qui est à venir. I'm preparing myself for what is to come.
Mais je m'y engage.
Mais je m'y engage means but I commit to it. The reflexive verb s'engager means to commit. For example, nous nous engageons à protéger l'environnement means we commit to protecting the environment. So here, Macron is committing to rebuilding Notre-Dame. By the way, if you're finding this video helpful, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the FluentU French channel so that you don't miss out on any of our videos.
Merci. Merci du fond du cœur. Dès demain, une souscription nationale sera lancée, et bien au-delà de nos frontières.
Dès means starting from a particular point in time. For example, je serai en vacances dès le début de juin. I'll be on vacation starting at the beginning of June. Similarly, dès can also mean as soon as possible. For example, il faut le faire dès que possible. It has to be done as soon as possible. In our sentence, Macron is saying that starting tomorrow, he will launch une souscription nationale, which means a national fundraiser or a national fundraising campaign. The word for launch was lancer. Une souscription nationale sera lancée. A national fundraiser will be launched. And this fundraiser will be launched bien au-delà nos frontières, well beyond our borders. Au-delà means beyond. For example, il faut regarder au-delà des apparences. You have to look beyond appearances. In this case, Macron is saying that the fundraiser will go beyond nos frontières, which means our borders.
Nous ferons appel aux plus grands talents, et ils sont nombreux qui viendront y contribuer.
Faire appel means to call upon or to appeal to. So Macron is saying that he will call upon the greatest specialists to help rebuild the cathedral.
Et nous rebâtirons. Nous rebâtirons Notre-Dame.
We already saw earlier that rebâtirons comes from the verb bâtir, which is a more formal way of saying to build. That's a lot of vocabulary that we just covered. So to help you remember it all, we made a free PDF that gives you a quick summary of everything you learned in this video. To download it, just click the link in the description below. Now watch the whole clip again without subtitles and see how much more you understand.
Je veux avant toute chose avoir une pensée et des remerciements pour les sapeurs-pompiers de Paris. Près de 500 d'entre eux, depuis plusieurs heures, se sont battus contre les flammes et se battent encore. Je veux aussi avoir une pensée pour toutes les Parisiennes et les Parisiens. Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est leur cathédrale et plus encore. Et je veux aussi avoir une pensée pour l'ensemble de nos compatriotes. Parce que Notre-Dame de Paris, c'est notre histoire, notre littérature, notre imaginaire, le lieu où nous avons vécu tous nos grands moments, nos épidémies, nos guerres, nos libérations. Alors je vous le dis très solennellement ce soir, cette cathédrale, nous la rebâtirons, tous ensemble. Et c'est sans doute une part du destin français. Et le projet que nous aurons pour les années à venir, mais je m'y engage. Dès demain, une souscription nationale sera lancée, et bien au-delà de nos frontières. Nous ferons appel aux plus grands talents, Et ils sont nombreux qui viendront y contribuer. Et nous rebâtirons. Nous rebâtirons Notre-Dame.
If you're ready to lighten up the mood a bit, head over to this video where I'll teach you more French with the hilarious stand-up comedian Paul Mirabel. Allez, on se retrouve dans la prochaine vidéo. À tout de suite.